say, well, yes, I know it'll all be okay in the sweet by and by, but what about the sour here and now? But Jesus is right here with us in the sour here and now to make things better. And he says to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Listen to this. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Believest thou this? Now, what in the world can he possibly mean when he says, whoever lives and believes in me will never die? Well, he obviously is not referring to physical death, because every Christian that's ever lived since the time of Jesus till now has died physically. That's not really the important issue, you know. I like to say sometimes the physical death is really not anything but a change of location, a change of address. See, Jesus said, now I tend to, see, my thought about it is, well, if Jesus said it, I tend to say, Jesus, even if I don't understand it, I know Jesus is right and I must be wrong. Jesus said, whoever lives and believes in me will never die. So I've just got to agree with him and say, if you're alive and you believe in him, you're never going to die. Now what's going to happen? What happened to all those Christians who have gone before us, all of our loved ones who we've had their funerals and we've said that they died? Jesus said they never died. He said, whoever lives and believes in me will never die. They're just not here. They moved. They're somewhere else. They're alive all right, just like you. You're not going to die either. You're going to just, when this body gets so it doesn't function anymore, you got to leave this world. But you're not going to die. You're going to go into where Jesus is. You know what Paul said is to die and depart. What did he say? For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. And to depart and be with Christ is far better. That's what he said. In Philippians, writing to the Philippians, he said to depart and be with Christ. To depart means to go from one place, go to another place. To depart and be with Christ is far better. That's what physical death is. So Jesus said, whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Now, he's saying back there in John chapter 5, verse 24 that we just read, whoever lives and believes in me has eternal life. You're in possession of it right now. The life of God. It's a new nature. It's your new kind of life. And you've already passed from death to life. You know, this the thought that he's... Alex, could you find me a verse in the Old Testament? I want to show you something. This is not a brand new thought that Jesus is conveying. It's found in Daniel. And it's at the last chapter of Daniel. I think that's chapter 12. I want to just show you this. What Jesus is talking about has a moral component to it. Daniel talks about this as well. See, Daniel chapter 12 and verse 2. Alex is going to find that in just a second there. See, Daniel was part of the children of Israel who were taken captive by Nebuchadnezzar and taken into Babylon. And he was very close to God and the interpreter of dreams and had a lot of revelation. He was very concerned about his people and was seeking God for what's going to be in the future. And angels came and he got lots of revelation. And in this chapter 12, where he's told at the conclusion of this to take the things that he's heard about, and it says, seal up the book, for the time is not yet. Seal it up, for the time is yet to come. One of the things he was given and told to hold it for the time is not yet come is this in verse 2. He says, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. This is evidently what Martha was talking about when she said, well, I know it's the last day of the resurrection. But Jesus told her a really striking thing. He said, I am the resurrection. I'm here right now, and I am that. I am that right now. I can impart that kind of a life right now. But notice when it talks about this everlasting life, there's a moral component, a component of judgment in it. It says, those that sleep in the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. So implied with the idea of everlasting life is acceptance and favor. You see that? Because the other side, it says, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. That's the side of rejection. But where he says everlasting life, what's implied in that is acceptance and favor and being accepted by God. Now, with that in mind, let's go back again and read this one more time, what he says in John chapter 5. John's Gospel, chapter 5, verse 24. Sorry, Alex, I'm making you hunt around. Is it working okay? Can you find everything? Okay, doing okay? Okay, you're doing great, Alex. Okay. Here's what he says. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that hears my word and believes on him that sent me hath everlasting life. In other words, you don't have to wait till some later day to a resurrection in the future. I am the resurrection and the life. Remember, he told Martha that. He said, if you believe my word, you've got it right now. And shall not come into condemnation, but has passed from death to life. Now, that moral aspect of it, what he's saying to you is, it's as though you've already gone through that. You've already bypassed that judgment and that risk of being rejected. You're already accepted. That's what he's saying to you when he says you've already passed from death to life. And to make it plain, right in the middle, you see, I read those outside thoughts. I read the first. At first, I read you have everlasting life. Then I skipped down and we talked about passed from death to life. What I left out is this middle part. Why did he put that in there? Because there's a moral component in that. Everlasting life means you're accepted. Means you're in God's favor. You're not going to be rejected, and that's what he's trying to emphasize. And so, right in the middle of that, he says, "Whoever hears my word and believes on him that sent me, number one, you have everlasting life. Number two, shall not come into condemnation." And he's very certain about that, very pointed. Shall not come into condemnation. I looked the word condemnation up in the Greek concordance and found out it's a Greek word krisis, K-R-I-S-I-S. And you know what it means? It means judgment. It literally means judgment. He says, whoever hears my word and believes on him that sent me has everlasting life and will not come into judgment. Or literally, if you want to be more specific, means an opinion or a decision concerning justice, carrying with it the sentence of condemnation. And he says, if you believe in me, this is one of the benefits of it. You're never going to be condemned. You're never going to get into the judgment of condemnation. You've already passed from death to life. It's as though what Daniel talked about, you've already been raised into that kind of life. You know, the book of Revelation talks about the first resurrection. He said, blessed are those who are part of the first resurrection. On them the second death has no power. That's what he's talking about. As Christians, we have possession of eternal life, and we've already been accepted. And the second death that talks about in Revelation has no power. We're already in. Isn't that good? There's nothing to be afraid of. You know, he says this. Alex, could you, sorry to make you turn away. In John chapter 3, he emphasizes this again. John chapter 3, verse 17, if you could read that just for a second. John chapter 3, Jesus says this again. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world. Wow, that's good, isn't it? He sure could have, couldn't he? I mean, if there's none righteous, no, not one, there's plenty of condemnation to go around. If his goal is condemnation, then he's got a pretty easy job, because everybody is worthy of condemnation. But it says, he sent not his Son to the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Next verse. He that believeth on him is not condemned. Notice how certain this is. And again, notice all that he's asking from us. To believe in him, to put our trust in him, to rely upon him. Whoever places their trust on him is not condemned. But he that believeth not is condemned already. In other words, people that don't believe, they already start from a position of condemnation. Adam got them there. Whoever believes is not condemned, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. So all that he's looking for out of human beings like you and me is to believe in him. Whoever believes is not condemned. Now, he said, whoever believes will not come into judgment or condemnation. Same word is used in chapter 12 of John. And I'm going to jump over there and read for just a second. John's Gospel, chapter 12. The exact same word is used. And by looking over here, we can see how it's used. Verse 31. John's Gospel, chapter 12. These chapters are just before he goes to the cross. He's at the end of his ministry, and he's going to have the Last Supper in the next few chapters and talk to the disciples and wash their feet, and he's going to be taken away and crucified. So these are some of the last things he had to say to them. In verse 31 it says, now is the judgment of this world. Now wait a minute. This wasn't written day before yesterday. This is written 2,000 years ago, just before he went to the cross. How can he say that now is the judgment of this world? Because it's going to take place in him, in his body. Now is the judgment of this world, same word, krisis, which means the judgment of condemnation. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. In other words, this judgment is going to have the effect of taking away all the power that Satan had to wield. You know, the only power